Hello and welcome to Geektopia with me, Adam Carruthers, a space on the internet where I can talk about all things geek-related, movies, TV shows, video games, comic books, toys, gadgets, and more. And by the way, this isn't a one-way conversation. I would love any feedback whatsoever from you, any comments you might have on what I'm about to talk about, or maybe from a previous episode as well. So get typing away down below. What am I focusing on? Probably guess from the title, it's Marvel's What If, the brand new show on Disney Plus, or Disney Plus Hotstar as it's known here in Malaysia and some other countries, and the question of whether I enjoyed it. So let's get stuck in. Firstly, what is What If? Well, it's pretty simple. It's an animated TV show. It's not particularly long. It's going to run for 9 episodes in total, and they're going to be releasing one every single week until the start of October. So far, we've only had the first episode to go on. It is an anthology series, so think Black Mirror, Amazing Stories, Love, Death and Robots on Netflix, where each episode is a different story. There are some anthology TV series as well, which stretch out an entire season, like Fargo, American Horror Story, or True Detective. So it's along that sort of vein. Very accessible. I mean, you don't need to watch episode 1 to understand episode 2. At least I presume, before it comes out anyway. It's pretty short, only 30 minutes for the first episode, and if I remember correctly, the creator of the show, AC Bradley, said the first couple of episodes will all be 30 minutes long. Didn't make mention of future episodes, so maybe they'll be a bit shorter or a bit longer. So it's very digestible, very, very easy to sit down and watch. It is not a brand new concept to this TV show. There is a comic book called What If. It started in 1977 and it runs sporadically, so it's coming out pretty much in volumes. Most recently it was for 6 issues, volume 13 in 2018. Now the idea is you take stories and put a spin on it. Establish stories or characters from the comics and make another scenario to tell an interesting story. There have been some really, really good ones, so I was going through my collection. Some of them include what if Wolverine had killed the Hulk? What if Spider-Man's Uncle Ben hadn't died? What if the Punisher and Venom had teamed up? Some stories are fun, some are quirky, like what if the Fantastic Four had different powers, or even if they didn't have any powers? And many, many more examples out there. It's well worth looking out for. They do have some collected issues that you can go and find in trade paperback form. Of course, does that mean this story is completely standalone and nothing to do with the MCU? Far from it. Absolutely far from it. In fact, AC Bradley, who is the creator of the show, has said it is canon, i.e. it is part of the MCU. You can consider it part of the MCU. This is where it gets really interesting, because remember in Loki, the Time Variance Authority, the TVA, how they're monitoring all the different multiverses and all of that, and how there's supposed to only be one timeline? Well, these are those other multiverses they warned us about. Different scenarios, different situations. That's why this show has limitless possibilities in what they want to do, which is why it got me excited in the first place. So that leads me on to the first episode, which is a spin, a tale, a multiverse tale of Captain America, or should I say Captain Carter. And you know what? I really, really enjoyed it. The only problem I had was it wasn't long enough. I can understand maybe that you're catering for a younger audience, being an animation, although there's lots of great adult cartoons out there. But I don't know, there was so much happening. It was unbelievably fast-paced. In 30 minutes, you are stacking so many things into one single episode. You don't have time to catch your breath. You don't have time to digest anything. That would be the only issue that I really took away from this episode. But apart from that, everything was awesome. Let's just say that if you like long, drawn-out discussions and battles, you're not going to find it in Marvel's What If, at least not in the first episode. If you like Dragon Ball, where a single fight can stretch across 3, 4, 5 episodes, this is the exact opposite, and it will probably attract those with a shorter attention span, which is, let's face it, the world we're living in now, where everyone just wants to see 1-minute videos on TikTok or Instagram and all of that. It was also great to see homages to what this is spun off from, which is Captain America, the First Avenger. Very first time we saw Chris Evans as Captain America. They had little homages as well, like the way you see Steve in the machine that will transform him, the way Howard Stark takes the glasses, you know? I don't have sunglasses on me, but it's become a meme. It's really, really famous. They have that, and there's little bits and pieces there, like towards the end when Bucky gets saved from falling off the train. Remember in the movie, it does fall off the train, and he says, it feels like you almost ripped my arm off. As we know, actually it's this arm, as we know in the movie and in the comics, he does lose his arm and he becomes the Winter Soldier. So those little sprinklings of homages were really, really good to throw us back and to almost reward the long-term Marvel fans. I've also got to say that the animation was so good, so slick, so beautiful. They look like the actors that they're based on from what we've known from the movies. It's not like we can't put a name to the face. We know what Hayley Atwell looks like. We know what Chris Evans looked like as the skinny Steve Rogers. We know what Dominic Cooper looked like as Howard Stark. Armin Zola, it really does look like what we saw in the movie, but in an animation form. The action was fantastic. There's like bing, bing, bing. There's so fast pace, which can be a good thing and a bad thing as well. But in this scenario, I really, really liked it. And just the whole spin of the story, how we saw Captain Carter or Peggy Carter overcoming these very outdated and very misogynistic views on whether she could be Captain America, and how she overcomes that and just completely kicks ass. How we saw a different approach for Steve Rogers where he effectively becomes Iron Man. We see Bucky not get captured and not get brainwashed into becoming the Winter Soldier. He lives, and who knows what kind of life he goes on to lead. So it was great. Started off in very familiar territory, retracing the steps of the first Avenger, and then became its own story altogether. Since I'm mentioning all these names, what about the voice actors? Well, the cast were all pretty good. Sadly, we didn't have Chris Evans back in as skinny Captain America. Now, I'm not calling him skinny. That's how he's credited as at the end. It's skinny Steve Rogers. But we got a guy called Josh Keaton, and he is a prolific voice actor. He's so experienced and so good. He's already voiced Iron Man. He's voiced Spider-Man. He's voiced Ant-Man, Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern from DC Comics, and plenty more. So he was more than able to step into the shoes of Chris Evans. Jeffrey Wright as the Watcher, here with the character that we all see in every single episode. Loved him in Westworld. He's going to be Jim Gordon in Batman, and in fact he's playing Batman as well. He's using his voice for this, it's kind of like a podcast with HBO, and he's playing Batman. He has his gravitas in his voice, so he was perfectly cast as the Watcher. Other characters, Colonel Flynn is the replacement of Tommy Lee Jones's character, very different though, but a man of seniority. Who else? We got to give a shout out to Ross McQuan from The Walking Dead. He is a good actor, but he's an even better impressionist. You should go onto YouTube. There are a whole bunch of videos of him impersonating other actors, like even actors like Brad Pitt, who nobody else impersonates. He does a good impression, and he steps in for Hugo Weaving as the Red Skull, and he does a pitch perfect job as the big bad, traditionally, for Captain America. We also saw Tony Jones return as Armin Zola. We saw Stanley Tucci return as Dr. Erskine. We saw Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye, the always amazing Neil McDonough as Dum Dum. Yeah, the guy's brilliant. He's been in DC properties, Marvel properties. He's just great. The only one which kind of was a letdown for me, surprisingly, was Sebastian Stan. Didn't seem like he was really into it. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh here, but that first scene where he appears and he sees Peggy and he breaks out of the prison, the Queen of England joke, just sounded like he was bringing it in. Didn't sound very passionate, didn't sound very realistic. I don't know. What do you reckon? Make sure that you leave a comment about Sebastian Stan's voice acting. Maybe he's better in live action rather than voice acting. Overall, I have to say it's an extremely solid start. I'm going to give it 7.5 Adam's apples out of 10. It could be higher, it's just that it's so short. If you're going to make it short, maybe you don't need to pack so much into a 30-minute episode, or make the episode longer. I mean, it's on Disney Plus Hotstar. You control how long you want each show, really. I'm hoping that in the future it won't feel so condensed into 30 minutes, but only time will tell on that front. AC Bradley, who I mentioned earlier as the creator of the show, has said Captain Carter will return in future seasons, so we'll have more stories of Captain Carter. And that is intriguing, because if you think about it, Bucky's storyline has completely changed. Doesn't fall off the train, doesn't turn into Winter Soldier, we presume. Maybe he does, but in a different scenario. By that logic, Tony Stark's parents, Howard Stark, who's in the show, might not get killed, nor Tony Stark's mother. Also, Iron Man's suit has already been built and being used by Steve Rogers in the 1940s. What happens to Steve Rogers after that? I'm sure it's all going to be explored once we get more of Captain Carter in the future of Marvel's What If. But yeah, tantalizing, absolutely tantalizing. Sound off below, bring on the rest of Marvel's What If. A lot to look forward to, I have to say. Thumbs up from me. Like, share, and subscribe, guys. Bye.